Welcome to the CEO series. This series of extensive interviews focuses on senior level executives across the globe, looking at timely issues, change, disruptions, affecting not only their organization, but the people within. We will dig deep into the dynamics affecting those two pillars. Our special guest today is Garvin Reid, Assistant Director, Employee Relations, NYU Abu Dhabi's campus. And with that, I'd like to welcome Garvin. So our topic today is internships during disruptive times. And the conversation will be centered around that. So give us some insights on your role and the role of your department.
Yes, so Ron, thank you for having me. To go back to that quick story, we met back in, I think it was 2016, when I got this amazing flight deal to come to the UAE. And I had about 15 of my friends and I got the round trip flight from New York. I was out here for my birthday in August. So I was in August, my first time in the UAE, and I loved it so much. I met up with Ron. I was like, what is it like to, live and work here? And, I heard some good news and also found a good opportunity at NYU Abu Dhabi, along with some good networking, and I landed the role here. So I definitely want to thank you for being a major part of that decision to move out here to the UAE. But yeah, so prior to working at NYU Abu Dhabi, I worked at NYU New York in career development for about 2.5 years. And now in my role at NYU Abu Dhabi, where I've been for 3 years and about 6 months, I manage, was that?
That long?
Yeah,
long.
It feels like yesterday. Like I arrived here February 15th, 2017, and it just feels like yesterday. But it's been about 3.5 years, and so I manage the employer relations team where I have a core team of 2 where we do all the outreach to connect our students with employers, but I also do a management and training of the career advisors in the Career Development Center, where we do events. We reach out to employers for internships, for full-time roles. We also have like fellowships. So there's a lot that we do. Also, we have funding for our students to do internships anywhere in the world during the summertime, which has been one of the most amazing things that we've run. This year, of course, it's a little bit different because we're not able to give out funding for opportunities in person, but we've been able to make a nice transition to give out some funding to students to do virtual internships in their home country, regardless of where the company is. And then we're able to give more money for students to do internships in their home country with companies in their home country. So overall, it's been an amazing role that I've had thus far. Have an amazing team, but the best part is working with amazing students. Just real quick, we have students from about 115 nationalities on campus, and these are the best and the brightest literally throughout the world. I mean, there isn't many countries that you can name that I can't say that we don't have a student from, which is a blessing in itself.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what is the disruption because of COVID? That's basically disrupted the entire internship model. So can you give us some insights for maybe students that had internships and those internships were possibly either put on hold or canceled? Or?
Yeah, so we've had a number of students, just even go back to what the typical internship cycle looks like. So for most of your large banks, your consultant firms, because we're NYU Abu Dhabi, we are part of the New York University network, which includes New York and Shanghai. So we have a cohort of students who were also eligible and I'm able to do internships in the US via CBT, which is a whole other thing. But those students, they had these internships locked in. They're normally well-paid internships in the States. Once Corona hit, that dried up. We were right at the point here where the companies here were beginning their timelines of hiring and sending out offer letters, and then Corona hit, and then those dried up as well. So the majority of the opportunities, unfortunately, more of them dried up than were able to just transition to virtual. What we're seeing now is that in organizations beginning to open back up, or different parts of the world, including Dubai, beginning to open back up, we're now seeing some companies reaching out to us saying that we're now open to, the possibility of virtual internships. Okay. So that's been at first, I will say, not so welcome switch, because, nobody really wants to do a virtual internship, because you're missing out on the face-to-face, you're missing out on the networking, you're missing out on the, bumping into someone on the way to, microwave your lunch, or even asking the manager to go out to lunch together or grab a coffee. But, I feel like people are making the adjustment both on the student and the organizational side, to where they're more open to that now. And we're getting some more traction there, because we are seeing that the fall may very well look like a lot more of virtual internships. Okay.
So if we had to reimagine the future of internships, what do you see? What are you seeing now that may change going forward, say for the 2021 group?
Yeah, for that group, you're going to see a lot more virtual internships. Coming from someone who's in career development, especially here in the region, I can probably say before Corona, we probably had maybe 2 to 3. I can feel confident in saying under 5 virtual internships before Corona. Now we're going to see a whole lot more, which is more of a pro than a con, because the virtual internships that we've had before, they were like, one that I can definitely think of was more of a hybrid, because the organization was based in Dubai. We're based in Abu Dhabi on Saadiyat Island, and the organization, it wasn't feasible for our students to commute to Dubai during the semester. We're very much a traditional liberal arts college, where we have courses during the daytime. The majority of our students are not from the UAE, so they can't take one whole semester off and intern in the country without losing their student visa. So the organization really wanted our students, but wanted to get around the whole thing of them being in Dubai and us being in Abu Dhabi. So that's where the hybrid / virtual internship thing came in handy. And now that through Corona, people are making those leaps and bounds to go forward to now they're more comfortable with virtual internships. This will benefit us a whole lot more. Not only with organizations in Dubai, but as I said, our students are from 115 different countries. So if an organization in Kenya wants to hire a student at NYU Abu Dhabi who's studying at NYU Abu Dhabi for the fall, they are now open to doing so both on the student side and the employer side. That's going to be a welcome change, I feel, for both the Career Development Center and especially for our students, because we're going to see a wealth of more opportunities that span beyond the UAE.
So the companies that were doing the virtual model before, they're basically onto something. And it probably wasn't a big stretch for them to continue that model.
Yeah, those companies were, as they say, on the bleeding edge. They were the trailblazers. They were the ones who were ahead of their time, and they did it well. Like there wasn't a steep learning curve. I mean, because for what it's worth, the average college student right now, they're used to everything virtual. Like these things just make sense for them. So they would just. I think for companies, the biggest thing is just making the adjustment of how do you hand out tasks, monitor tasks, and also have development of the students virtually. And then like all of those small things too. So first you have to tackle those, but then you have the small things of like I said, that like networking aspect. How do you ensure that your intern still has some face time with the managing director, with maybe someone in the senior leadership team, beyond just their supervisor? How do you ensure that interns can network amongst each other? Because you may have interns from different universities. How do you ensure that? And I think that's the part that we also need to make sure it doesn't get lost in the virtual internship space.
Okay, so if a company wanted to hire interns for whatever that period is, and maybe me as an organization, I don't really know how to set that up. Do you offer assistance? Your department offers assistance for organizations that put this together?
Yeah, so one of the most amazing things that my team did this semester in as we call it, in the age of Corona, was create a virtual internship guide, which I can definitely send to you to have as part of the resources for this chat. And I mean, it's amazing. It walks you through the entire process of not only like posting a job with us, because I mean that's like the easy part, but like the back end part of like things to think about, things to consider. Also maybe some examples as well of a virtual internship, and then the do's and don'ts of a virtual internship. And we found that has gotten us a lot more traction, and that has gotten companies more open to the idea of a virtual intern. Because honestly, for what it's worth too, even before Corona, there were still companies who were not even used to the internship model in this region. So to go from not being used to the internship model to now the virtual internship model, that's like a light year of a leap, you know?
Yeah. That's a PhD in 2 years, you know?
Exactly. So, I mean, just like hats off to my team for being able to put that guide together, because that has just helped a whole lot. Even for those companies who were considering it, I've sent that to them and they're like, wow, this really helps us in just fine tuning it a little bit more.
Okay, fine tuning according to what they're looking for. So how is recruiting done now? I mean, I know that in the corporate side, the recruiting model has changed somewhat. So how does it work for a graduate that graduated during this time? How do you handle that area?
Yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to the class of 2020, both at NYU Abu Dhabi and everywhere else in the world, because I feel like before them, you know, my class year, I'm a 2008 graduate of Cheyney University of Pennsylvania. And for those of you who may know, 2008 was a rough time globally as well. Yeah. So I feel like the class of 2020 just took our roughness to a whole other level. Like, we graduated in the middle of, you know, the global financial crisis, which was tough, but, you know, compared to graduating during COVID, it was still doable. During COVID, you're graduating during a massive mindset shift, global pandemic. It's just a whole other level. But in true human fashion, we're able to make adjustments, right? So I feel like right now, the biggest change that happens to recruitment is that it's done virtual. It has to be done virtual. And it helps to flatten the world, which for NYU Abu Dhabi benefits us tremendously. In terms of recruitment virtually before Corona, I can probably think of about 2 organizations, maybe 3 once again, that have done virtual recruitment sessions. And then once again, even those were hybrid. And I can tell you that on the student side, students' attendance was not as strong for a virtual event as it was for a physical event. Yeah. Versus now, I believe the tables have turned, where students will be way more likely to attend a virtual recruiting event. I mean, I can just, you know, speak a little bit to where I believe more than likely our events in the fall will be virtual anyway. So they're going to be, I don't want to say forced to, but if they are considering opportunities, whether it be internships or full-time jobs, virtual events will be the way to go. But also, once again, in NYU Abu Dhabi being a very particular institution that's different from the most, both in the region and globally, with our students from all over the world, this benefits us a whole lot as well. So now we're able to host an information session with a company in South Africa, or a company in India, a company in Singapore, in Vietnam, and not have to worry about, I mean, we didn't have the budget to fly someone out anyway, but you know, now it's nothing but a Zoom link shared with the students, someone on my team moderating it, and there it goes, the magic happens. So this helped us to get to where we were probably thinking about in our 5-year plan, how we can do these things. Now we're getting it done next academic year for sure. Wow. So yeah, this honestly benefits us so many more ways than we can ever imagine. Yeah. But I will say, at first, we were not open to it. We were like, we need to get back to being in person as soon as possible. Hopefully this thing blows over. It's just a 10-day thing. And now we're on week, I don't know, 20 something. So
I lost count.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, one of the mainstays of senior year in colleges, or at least it used to be, was career day, career fairs, and you have all the, I almost said vendors, shows you how long I've been out, but you have all of the companies come in everybody gets a booth, students walk around, make the introductions, those kind of things. How is that going to change going forward? I know you mentioned individual, but do you see something along the lines of like a conference? Conferences are now being held virtually, speaker after speaker after speaker.
Mm-hmm.
How's that model going to look?
Yeah, so funny enough, prior to this call, I was just getting off of a review with someone on my team where I was talking about that, how we're going to be doing some research on that over the summer. So we have one of two ways. The way that I'm keeping my fingers crossed that works is our current platform is called Handshake. Handshake is very well known in the West, well, in the US, because they're now starting to expand to the UK as well. It's a kind of like a career services CRM platform that all companies go through to post jobs and hire our students. It's a free platform and it's very easy to use for our students. Handshake is now working 24/7 overnight to now roll out their virtual career fair module or platform. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they can get that rolled out in time for us in the fall, because NYU Abu Dhabi just adopted Handshake last year this time, and the process of rolling out employers onto that platform was not the easiest. So I do not want to go with a whole new platform to have the career fair on that's not Handshake, because traditionally our in-person fairs was done also through Handshake. So you would register through Handshake and then we would handle this stuff in person. So we're definitely looking to having those fairs still happen, but virtually and hopefully through Handshake. We're doing research now on how do we do networking events. So one of the probably the greatest events that I put together or helped with was our networking night. We would have one night in the fall under the stars, as I would call it, because we have this like very nice area on campus. We would invite about 40 to 50 employers and about 100 students or so to just simply just do that, just network, just get comfortable with the art of professional networking, because we don't want our students to graduate, right, and like have their first time ever at a professional networking event be when they're in the workplace. Because you know, if there is a time and place to make mistakes, we want it to be on campus. We don't want it to be when you are a first year associate at a consulting firm and you're at a networking function, or you're a researcher and you're now at the networking portion of a conference. We want it to be on campus. So now we're thinking of like, what does a virtual networking event look like? Are we able to use breakout rooms, and are we able to still get that effective conversation going one-on-one or in 3 group sessions, or even another portion is like mentorship. What does virtual mentorship look like? So we're actively looking at that as well. And one of the brainchilds or goals that I had even before Corona was just that, a conference on the future of the workplace, but from the higher ed perspective. You know, so hopefully I get some brain space to consider that virtually as well, that we can do, because we have like a future of work center here at NYU Abu Dhabi. So it would really be great to like get some of the corporate influence on that and like tie it into NYU Abu Dhabi, and you know, of course, always plugging our students like, you know, as talent for these organizations as well. So the future of work, because normally that's on the employer side, we're concerned about the future of work. How would an organization, or how is your model set up? Is that just for education from your side, or do you have partnerships with externals, partners? Yeah, so, and then admittedly, I can't speak too much to it, only because it's not housed in our department. So I only know as much as I got from one session that we had, I think close to like 1 year ago now. But the person who runs it, she's amazing. And like, she literally does a lot of this research on, I think it's called Industry 2.0, is it? Is that the next wave that's coming up? And so she looks at it from a faculty point of view mostly, but she also has the experience and the background to look at it from also, you know, like students going into the workforce, but also corporations, and like how can they ensure that they're, you know, hiring talent that speak to this next level of industry, but also train and develop talent for this next industry as well. So I mean, one of the things I would love to get done is to bring all 3 areas into the same room and just
Yeah.
have these wonderful conversations, because it's needed. Because as you know, like it's very separate, but it all goes hand in hand anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If everything is working in silos, nobody's talking to each other. And that's why, the other thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned this program called Handshake. Now, is that specifically for your siloed education side, or could an organization also use that platform? Handshake.
Yes, so Handshake is for employers to join so that they can hire students. The really good thing about us is that, once again, because we're part of the Global Network University, when an employer, let's say that Strategy Focus Group joins the Handshake platform through NYU Abu Dhabi, but you'll still have access to NYU New York and NYU Shanghai talent as well. So when you think about those numbers for active undergraduates or like active current students, that's close to 100,000 students. When you factor in alumni, that's about 400,000 students. And as you know, the NYU, brand and like student body is not just New York City. It's not just the Northeast. It's not just America. So you're able to sign up for this one platform through our office and have access to talent all over the world that have, the NYU brand behind them, whether it be undergraduate, graduates, or PhD. And I'm also involved in working groups with our professional schools. So like, let's say that you wanted an MBA talent, I easily have the contact to our MBA career services. Same thing goes for law talent as well. So yeah, it's a really powerful tool, and it is mostly or predominantly for employers to sign up to seek talent from our point of view from NYU Abu Dhabi. But I mean, if you join and you hire someone from NYU New York, perfectly fine. I can definitely speak to a startup here in Abu Dhabi recently that was it's an education technology startup that posted a job, and they got about 6 people who applied for it, and one of which was an NYU New York student, and they hired them because it's a virtual opportunity, and it works in terms of the time zone. So it's if anything, it just helps to further benefit the value add of NYU Abu Dhabi when you hire NYU New York students.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a big hit as it relates to cancellations for internship programs? Companies you might have used before or had programs before, and this year they said, no, we can't.
Yeah, that was probably the thing that I mourned the most when coronavirus hit. To be honest with you, Ron, this was gonna be my year. We just got Handshake. We had like the biggest hump to get over was like explaining to Handshake that a multinational corporation doesn't want to be under their New York office or their US office. They want to have their own AE office or their own office in MENA. So we were able to get over that hump and then get all the multinationals signed up. We had our fall fair. We broke records there with the most students to attend the fall fair in person. We had our spring fair. Our spring fair was literally 1 week before the lockdown. So when I tell you that the higher powers were looking out, they were looking out. And in that fair, we broke records in terms of the most employers attending and the most students attending. We were able to get, so normally, right, another thing about NYU Abu Dhabi, another like quirk, is that in the spring, we have the least amount of students on campus because a large portion of second and third year students are studying away. So our students, so the average NYU Abu Dhabi students, by the time they graduate, they have studied in at least 3 different countries. So during the spring semester, they're studying at NYU Florence, NYU New York, NYU Sydney, NYU Accra, NYU Berlin, NYU Buenos Aires. For what it's worth, some of our students are still stuck there. So there's that also. But what that means is that normally in the spring semester, our spring fair, the attendance is much lighter. It's normally about half what it is
because everybody's there.
Yeah. But I was able to, motivate the team, and we were able to do amazing marketing and get some amazing companies. We had 33 brand new companies for the first time ever attend a career fair this spring. And these were very well-known companies. So with that being said, we only had, I think it was 10 or 20 less students than in the fall, which is unheard of. So when I tell you that the spring semester was going to be our year to just break records all over, this was going to be it. And then Corona happened. I mean, some major companies that was talking about hiring interns for the summer, like if not all, the majority of them, I'm gonna probably say about 90% of them, they just said that they can't, or they just don't know how to. And I mean, no knock to them, because I mean, no one knew what was gonna happen, you know, tomorrow, more or less a week or a month out. So to hire someone given that uncertainty wouldn't be fair to the student nor the employer. So I totally get it. So yeah, it was a major blow, man. Like I'm still reeling over that, because it was gonna be my year.
But you know what? It'll all come back, but maybe in a different model. And the learnings that can arise from this will take it to heights probably unheard of next time around.
That is the hope and the plan.
Yeah. So for an organization to say, no, we're not going to do it this year, what would be your business case for convincing me to say, okay, I get it. Let's see what we can work out.
Yeah. So for me, the strategy that I rolled out for my team was just like, let them know that we're going virtual, and like hope that by us modeling how we're going virtual, that they'll then consider for themselves to go virtual in terms of like virtual internships. And then once we actually created the virtual internship guide and rolled that out, we push it out via our newsletter. In like every newsletter, we push it out in our social media. I casually send it out to employers who I know came to the fair for the first time, like, hey, by the way, we have this virtual internship guide just in case you're considering hiring interns. And it worked for some, but for others, once again, you know, like there's still too much uncertainty. And then on top of the budget part, that's another piece that like really hit. But like I said, the benefits of being the person who also runs the internship funding grant is that I'm able to tell the employers that don't worry about the budgets. At this point, we just have students who are looking for opportunities, and we can help to fund, you know, their expenses during these internships. So, you know, like if a student is doing a virtual internship and they're in their home country and they need extra, you know, money for Wi-Fi or data, we're able to help with that from the university point of view. So, you know, like the CDC's goal is to just minimize the number of barriers on both the employer side and the student side, to make sure that that magic can happen between the students and the employer. That's one of our main goals. So that's been how we've been rolling out things going forward. And we're hoping that, especially with the fall being, so normally in a traditional fall, we don't have that many internships because, like I said, we're a full-time liberal arts college. So our students are not able to do internships, especially outside of Abu Dhabi, because they're not able to do that commuting. But now with them being more open to virtual internships, my hope and my desire and also plans is that a lot of the organizations, you know, especially the multinationals based in Dubai, are open to doing virtual internships during the semester where our students can take advantage of that.
Okay. You know, I noticed, I read an article that Deloitte canceled that program. So they gave each student like 1/6 of what that salary would have been for that period, which I thought was kind of creative, you know, because if I'm expecting to go there and all of a sudden there's nothing, I could have been depending on that money. So have you come across any companies that are doing something unique that you'd like to talk about?
Let's see. So I'll say this, that the playing field out here is not as such where the majority of employers have paid internships. We're still getting to that place where the majority of internships are paid. So that's coming, I would definitely say. I'm not sure whether I can speak too much on the employer's name, but I definitely know of a really good financial services firm that was able to jump through some major hoops to ensure that one of our students who was going to be interning with them in the States is now able to intern with them in the UAE via their office in Dubai. And this is important for me to note for multiple reasons. One, because it shows the level of flexibility that the company is able to do, which for a major financial services firm, that's amazing. Two, it shows a commitment to the students. that they're willing to like go through hoops to ensure that there's as minimal disruption to the student as possible, and they can still work, you know, to like get the student on board. So I'm pretty certain that student now, when it comes time to, you know, consider that company for a full-time offer, they're going to be a little bit more like, this company did all this just for little old me. I'm going to consider them going on forward. And then 3, as someone who's worked with multinationals and knowing how they don't talk to each other, that was amazing. The fact that the Dubai office was able to accept a intern from the US office, that normally does not happen. Normally it's 2 massive silos, and it's, you know, that normally do not cross. In smaller companies, yes, but in the large firms, nah. So I just hope that we see more of that in the future.
Okay. Do you have anything on the drawing boards to educate the corporate sector as to the advantages of internships? As you said, it's a kind of a newer model here. Some kind of symposium, or maybe a mini conference or something along those lines, that bring those 2 together. Because, you know, you're talking about silos. You have the school, you have the students, and then you have the corporate side, which could play a huge role, but maybe they've never given it consideration. Anything on the drawing board for that?
So nothing officially, but that's where that, you know, brainchild of having that future of work conference, but like having that future of work conference would definitely come into play. That would be one of those conferences or like conversations, because like I've been to conferences here, and I've heard employers say, you know, that, you know, one of the main issues here in the Middle East is like talent, and there's like a massive need for like upskilling of talent, and when talent graduate, they don't have certain skills. And then I would listen to that person talk, go back to like look at their company and look in our like emails and like say, I've been emailing this company for about 6 months and got no answer, and I can assure you that I have award-winning talent at NYU Abu Dhabi that would have been, you know, that would have just made you not make that comment. But, you know, it's just like, so one of my reasonings for wanting to do that conference is to, yes, bring everyone together, but the self-serving part is also to still, you know, publicize NYU Abu Dhabi. Coming from NYU New York, most of my employer relations was inbound. Most of it was companies calling saying, hey, we want NYU talent. Versus out here, it's an uphill battle. For what it's worth, we're not based in Dubai. We don't have any locations in Dubai. A large number of the multinationals are in Dubai. There are other schools out here that have legacy in these corporations as well that we don't have. We're only 10 years old here in the region.
Okay.
And although we've broken massive records, like we have the most Rhodes Scholars in the world, we have, you know, like there's lots of competitions that our students have won, both from the government, on the corporate sector here in the UAE and the region. Like we've managed to do very well for ourselves, but on the corporate side, there's still companies who don't know who we are. There's still companies who do not recruit from us. There's still companies who, when I talk to them about the Opportunities Fair and it's a 45-minute road drive down Sheikh Zayed Road, they're like, oh no, we can't fit it into our schedule. So there's still that to get over. So that's where I think having roundabout ways of still getting them here would definitely help. That's one of the strategies that I implemented when I first joined the team, actually. I think I heard it somewhere else, but it was, I think we coined it the Walmart strategy, but it's pretty much that like big box strategy, right? Where, you know how like for those big box stores, the goal is to have clients or customers in the store for X number of minutes, because the longer you have someone in there, the more likely they are to purchase, right? So my goal is to get these companies to campus for any means necessary. And the longer they are on campus interacting with our students, the more likely they are to say, I need NYU Abu Dhabi talent in my organization. So whether it's for a career fair, an employer session, or even something in the art center, or our library rolling out a new exhibition, something that's not even focused on hiring students, but you just happen to speak to or see one of our students, that gets you there. So just more exposure for the university will benefit us for sure.
Yeah, I saw a speech from the former CEO for IBM, and she was talking about how they were extending building partnerships through universities and in some cases back to high schools, getting involved in curriculum design, specifically around STEM, and having these people from an IBM perspective to kind of guide higher education, saying, here's the skills, capabilities we're going to need in 3, 4, 5 years to come. Building those kind of partnerships. Have you ever given any consideration to something along those lines?
Yeah. So one of the greatest assets is that the majority of our programs, I can definitely even speak to engineering, they have industry advisory boards. So on their industry advisory boards are these a lot of these like well-known companies, and they help to like guide the curriculum to what they're looking for in the next 3 to 4 years to ensure that our students when they graduate they have those skills. And on the CDC side, we also began having industry advisory boards as well, because we want to make sure that we're not too heavy on the academia side, and we want to make sure that also that we understand what a recruiter is going through here in the UAE and how we can once again lessen those barriers. So we have those meetings about once a year, and that kind of helps us to like understand from the other side of the table, like how we can make it easier for you to recruit talents. Also how can we spread the word? Like, is there a conference that we're not going to? Is there something within our system that seems too Americanized, or is there something that we can do to make sure that we can highlight that you're looking for maybe Arabic speakers only? Like what can we do that we may not be thinking of because we're like in the actual woods?
Okay. Well, when you think of organizations on one side and you think of the educational sector on the other, you're going to have a partnership because you're building the product. And on their side, the metaphor could be they got to purchase the product. And if they find deficits in that product, what can we do to enhance that? And the only way you're going to be able to do it is to get their input and possibly putting some enhancements or whatever it is, together. For the graduates of that's still struggling outside today, and a lot of them are because a lot of companies have gone into non-hiring mode. What advice from a career side would you give them?
Yeah. So even from like a personal side, I would even start. So once again, as a class of 2008 graduates, for me, my plan A was actually to join the Peace Corps, but then I actually ended up turning down the Peace Corps before the financial crash happened. And then when it did happen, I was like, oh yeah, Peace Corps, I was just joking. And then they was like, nah, no. So I was forced to, join my massive cohort of 2008 graduates in just doing any and everything to just like get some experience. And with that being said, a lot of what I did during that time is actually beneficial to like what I do now, even as like a vocation in my career. So I can just start from that. So networking. Even if the company is not hiring right now, it's definitely beneficial to just network with those people. What does that look like? That looks like maybe having maybe someone who you were, or a company that you were considering, or even someone who you were in talks with before Corona. Send a check-in. Life has changed drastically for literally everyone. So the good thing is that that's a great topic to connect on. Like, hey, I just graduated. Of course, this has been a historic graduation for all the wrong reasons, but I just want to just check in with you to see how things are going with you and your family. Hope all is well. As you know, I'm actively on the job search. Your company may not be searching, but I would love to get a 15 or 20-minute conversation with you virtually to just check in, to just get some tips on maybe like how I can further network or develop skills for when we're back to the workplace and people are back to hiring, so I can even further my skills in being hireable. So that's definitely one of them, is networking, and networking virtually for sure. So that's what that means.
Totally new.
Right. So like having your LinkedIn sorted out, meaning profile picture, tagline, background, all of that stuff for sure. Another thing would be just upskilling. Just, we're in a very virtual age. You know, whether your school gives you access, I know NYU Abu Dhabi does, but you know, whether your school gives you access or it's like a free course, take some of those free courses. Like we definitely through everything happening now, we can see through just watching maybe CNBC or like watching anything about the stock market, what companies are growing massively right now, and and actually hiring. Those would definitely be within the tech sector. So if you are a computer science, computer engineering, interactive media, anything that has to do with UX, UI, product development, product management, anything in that space, and you don't have a job right now, you should be upskilling to just, you know, like making sure that you can get those further skills to make you even more employable for either A, when people are hiring, or to even make you more hireable for right now, because we do know that those sectors are growing. Another way can be, which is, you know, completely shifting gears, is just going the non-traditional route. That can be, of course, that's given finance, giving opportunity costs, given your your familial background, taking a gap year or gap 6 months. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean to just sit home and do nothing, but it could mean to, you know, work on that entrepreneurial endeavor that you may have had. Write that book, begin publishing those articles, you know, traveling around your own hometown, becoming, doing like local Airbnb experiences in your own hometown. There's like so much that can be done within your, you know, direct area without having to worry about, you know, someone hiring you to do it. I say all that to say that during 2008 is when I did a lot of volunteering in like the space of higher ed. Like I said, I'm an HBCU graduate, so I did a lot of so I did like a lot of volunteering with the Urban League, Young Professionals. They would host a college fair in Riverbank State Park every year. And I would not only volunteer on behalf of Cheney to do admissions, like work at the actual booth, but I would also be on panels talking about why should you go to an HBCU? And the other one was, I think, just like the importance of college in general. And the amount of like joy I got from doing that free work was higher than anything that I got in my internships or jobs prior to that. I'm a business management major for my undergraduate, so nothing I majored in had anything to do with higher education. I am a history buff, so I did like read like a whole lot about, you know, the histories of HBCUs and all of that stuff there. But yeah, like I just got so much joy from that like it struck in my mind like, whoa, I should actually work in this. Like what are some actual careers in higher education that I can be doing? And if it wasn't for me volunteering, doing these things for free, I would have never known about, you know, roles in admission, which was my first job, roles in academic advising, or even just the importance of just like speaking out on the importance of these things, which furthered into my master's program, which is in higher education and student affairs. So
at NYU, right?
At NYU. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So like these three things I would highly recommend to everyone, which is so what's that? That's networking. That is taking some time off if predicament allows, because I definitely understand not everyone has you know the time, the finances, and the opportunity costs. I mean, everyone who's taking the econ course knows about opportunity costs to take that time off, and also just like if you're not able to, still find some time to volunteer.
You know, one thing I'd like to ask you about before we close out is the LinkedIn. You mentioned LinkedIn earlier, and from my side, I get LinkedIn requests, and sometimes I wonder who's educating these students about careers, because I get email requests, LinkedIn requests, and it basically says, please give me a job. Someone sent me one the other day that says, I'm actively looking to get a job. Please go to my profile and let me know what opportunities you have in your organization. Well,
I've seen those too.
But normally what I do today, in this climate, I will always take time to write a 2-3 minute kind of good luck, nothing happening here kind of thing. And this one, I decided to go deeper than that. I went deeper and talked about how it should be constructed, the the skills you have, how you can apply that to their organization. It has to be from the employer side, not about me. I'm looking to find a job. I want you to go to my profile to review. LinkedIn, talk to the importance of LinkedIn, because I think lots of times the younger people that are coming out really don't pay a lot of attention to that product and how it could be used.
Yeah, so LinkedIn was probably one of the most powerful tools even before Corona. And I feel like now that we're in the age of Corona, it's the importance of LinkedIn has probably like doubled or tripled. To where now it's a much easier conversation to have with students on the importance of it, because now, I mean, there's no other option. You're not able to have these face-to-face interactions otherwise. So we do a lot of training on LinkedIn where we talk about, of course, the importance of your profile, but also like the actions behind LinkedIn. So yes, like if you add someone in my sessions, we always say like it's not okay to just like add someone, right? It's add someone, but have that note. Like talk to them like why are you adding me? Like I don't want to just like add you for adding sake. Like add someone, but then say yes. Do you have 10 or 15 minutes for a brief conversation? As I would like to get to know more about your role or more about your organization. I also coach our students on don't only add the HR person, because like if you are a interactive media major and you're adding the HR person, what is that for? Like what can you learn from the HR person other than their application process, which you can probably learn from their website, right? Yeah. Add the actual, the UX UI designer, add the product manager, add the VP of innovation, add that person, because he or she can tell you much more about the organization, about the company's goals, where they're going forward, innovation, what they value, their culture, and that's important fuel for your interview. So now when you get to the interview, you're locked and loaded. Yeah, you're able to use things that no other person who just did research online can use, and that helps you to stand out. So and that's like my third and final point. The name of the game is standing out, right? So LinkedIn is one means for you to stand out, but having those conversations helps you stand out for when you get to the level of actual interviewing as well. Because when it comes time for them to look over those 5 interviewers or 5 interviewees who they interviewed, they're gonna all check major boxes. They're gonna all have the minimum GPA. They're gonna all have done projects. They all, graduated. They all have degrees. But it's that small thing of, well, this person actually had a conversation with the VP of innovation and was able to recount that in the interview and talk about how their background speaks mostly to what we're looking for in our culture. That is going to be the difference maker of why you get hired and the other person doesn't get hired. So it's all about, like doing this with the actual strategy in mind. And the strategy is not just blindly just add. No, you can have 10,000 connections on LinkedIn and never talk to any one of them, and it's not useful, it's not powerful, it doesn't benefit you at all. Ron, like you were one of my connections on LinkedIn. When I came to the UAE, I reached out even before that, and we set this thing up. And look at this; it's still paying tenfold over.
Dividends. Yes.
Exactly.
Over a period of time. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I know. Right?
Seems like an eternity, right?
Right. Yeah.
Garvin, can you give us your contact information to the audience if they're on the employer side? Maybe there's something we can do from our side to help. And on the other side as well.
Yeah. So on the employer side, you can just email me at first.lastname, so garvin.reed@nyu.edu. We have 2 different like naming structures for emails. So the other easier one is just GAR, so GAR 303@nyu.edu. Either one, I get the email. You can also look me up on LinkedIn as well. Just Garvin Reed. You'll see me there. And I can't stress this enough. If you are, whether you're in the region or not, if you're seeking talent, please send me a note. We have talent for you, regardless of what it is. Although we're a liberal arts college, we have students in every background you can think about, whether it be STEM, whether it be English, whether it be Arabic, history, everything. So please contact me. Okay. One of my biggest goals is to make sure that when organizations, especially in this region, but even beyond, whenever they seek talent, the first school they go to is NYU Abu Dhabi.
Okay, cool. Garvin, thank you so much for your time today. It's been awesome. On the final edits of this, we will have his contact information in case you did not get it all. So thank you and have a good day. And I'll see you in Abu Dhabi. We do dinner as soon as things are lifted and I can come there again.
I know, right? Yeah, soon. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.